إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, we're going to start from the couple of ayah before. He was قل يا أهل الكتاب لما تكفرون بآيات الله. We didn't explain this yesterday. So Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, He tells the people of the book, why do you disbelieve in Allah Subhanahu wa Taala when Allah Subhanahu wa Taala knows what you are doing? You believe that Allah, your Lord, has sent you books and told you in your books that He's going to send Muhammad ﷺ, and then Muhammad ﷺ comes, you disbelieve in him. And also here, not only do they disbelieve in Muhammad ﷺ, but they also try to make people go away from believing in him. لِمَ تَصُدُّونَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ مَنْ آمَنَ تَبْغُونَ عَوَجَهُ. So they stop people from believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only do they not believe themselves, but they also try to stop people from believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that they do. So obviously, there are some organizations that are actually, whose mere task is just to study the Quran and Islam and try to bring about some doubts in the religion and spread it among the Muslims and, the ignorant people. They start doubting in their religion, as soon as they hear these things without trying to find out the truth about these lies that get spread in the Muslim countries. So this is a trait that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, because in another ayah He said that they are jealous from the Muslims, they are jealous of the Muslims, because they don't want somebody to have more knowledge or be on guidance than what they have. So basically they have the knowledge in the Torah, and they don't want the Muslims to have more knowledge than that. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حَسَدًا مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ. This is an evil trait in the souls of many human beings. And for these people, the books, they exhibit it towards the Muslims. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the believers, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِن تُطِيعُوا فَرِيقًا مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ يَرُدُّوكُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ كَافِرِينَ. O you who believe, if you listen and follow some people among the people of the book, the Jews or Christians, they will turn you away from your religion. And obviously, this is something that we see today in our society, especially with the youth, that basically take non-Muslims as close friends, and then they misguide them from the path of Allah, and they start doing the deeds of disbelief, and then after that they end up disbelieving in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have first-hand experience with many of the youth that turned disbelievers. As a matter of fact, one of them told me that I don't believe in Allah, I don't believe in the hereafter. It's just that people are suffering in this world, so they make up these notions about a better life in the hereafter, and they start believing in it. But as far as he's concerned, all this is nonsense. There is no God, there is no hereafter. And this person has a Muslim name, and his parents are Muslims. So here, this is the reason why. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi. A person is going to be on the religion of his best friend. So let each one of you figure out who his best friend is. So if his best friend is a Christian or a Jew, sooner or later you're going to start thinking like him. And it's gradual. It doesn't come overnight or after a week or a month or a year. But with time, slowly but surely, a person will turn into the religion of his best friend. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chastises these believers that turn from Islam into disbelief because they allow themselves to be misguided by the people of the book. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he says, the Prophet ﷺ was with them, and he had the revelation being revealed to him from Allah, and then some people still reverted back on their backs and turned away from Islam. And of course, today the Prophet ﷺ is still with us with whatever sunnah he has left us. So obviously, any question or any doubt that a person has, he should not be shy about it. He should ask the people of knowledge, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to show him the truth. And that's why here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يَعْتَصِم بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ هُدِيَ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Whoever sticks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Allah's path, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gonna guide him to the straight path. But obviously, if a person in his heart does not really wanna be guided, he does not seek guidance, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to guide him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah haqqa tuqatih. All you who believe, have taqwa in the correct manner in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Ibn Mas'ud explained ittaqullah haqqa tuqatih and said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obeyed and not defied. This is number one. Number two, that Allah is remembered and not forgotten. And number three is Allah is appreciated and not unappreciated. This is to have the true taqwa in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to obey Allah's commandments, don't defy the commandments. You have to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dhikr a lot, have the remembrance of Allah as a daily custom, or basically in your daily life. When you speak, you remember Allah. Just you want to sit down, remember Allah. You want to get up, you remember Allah. You enter the bathroom, before you enter the bathroom, you remember Allah. When you exit the bathroom, you remember Allah. All these are dua that you say. So this is how we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before you eat, remember Allah, you say Bismillah. And then also we have to appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So many Muslims, they only look at what other Muslims have that have better than them, and they think that they are in a bad shape, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them enough, and that this is wrong. The Prophet ﷺ said we have to look at the people that have less than us. This way we will not underestimate Allah's bounty and mercy on us. Because if you always look at people that have more than you, then you will think that Allah has given you less. But if you always look at people that have less than you, then you will surely thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving you what He has given you. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Surely you should not die except in a state of Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to die in a state of Islam, because as the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِخَوَاتِمِهَا. Surely the deeds are based on their ending. So as the hadith, authentic hadith says, a person may live his whole life as a true believer, and then just before he dies, he starts doing the deeds of disbelievers, and then he dies in that state, so he enters hellfire. Because and vice versa, a person may live as a disbeliever his whole life, and before his death, Allah decrees for him to become a believer, and then he would die in a state of belief, and he would enter Jannah, as we have many examples in the Sunnah. One person actually believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and went to fight in the battle of Uhud, and he became a martyr. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, this person entered Jannah and he did not pray even one single rak'ah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he did not have time to pray, obviously, because he just believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and immediately he went to fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ending of a person's life is the most important. Now, the scholars explain that this hadith is an exception to the rule. In other words, if a person usually lives his life according to Allah's law, then most likely he will die in that state, that he is gonna die as a believer, and vice versa. These are exceptions to the rule, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that some people may outwardly show that they believe in Allah and they do the deeds that are required from Islam, but in his heart he hates Islam, he hates Muslims, he loves disbelievers, he loves the misguided ways of the disbelievers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns him into a disbeliever before his death. So this is something that we should basically not be heedless about. And the Prophet ﷺ also said that a person should not die except that he has a good trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يموتن أحدكم إلا وهو يحسن الظن بالله عز وجل. None of you should die except while having sincere trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the exalted and most honored. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says أنا عند ظن عبدي بي. Allah said, I am as my servant thinks of me. So if you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good to you and is a forgiving person, and you undertake the deeds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered you to do, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to forgive you. On the other hand, the person cannot say Allah is forgiven and then not obey Allah's commands. Like disobey Allah and then say Allah is forgiven. Allah is forgiven to His slaves that deserve mercy. And the slaves that deserve mercy are the ones that obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and basically do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks from them. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. He orders the Muslims to hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the covenant of Islam. That's the hablillah, that's the covenant of Islam, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by Himself, with no partners, and to do all the deeds that Allah ordered us. And we should not be separated. So separation is an evil thing that happens among the Muslims. In another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ فَرَّقُوا دِينَهُمْ وَكَانُوا شِيَعًا كُلُّ حِزْبٍ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ فَرِحُونَ. And don't be, Allah is talking to the Muslims, He says, don't be like the polytheists, the ones that have divided their religions and divided into separate groups. Each one of these groups is happy with whatever he believes in. كُلُّ حِزْبٍ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ فَرِحُونَ. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here tells the Muslims, we have to hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why as Muslims we are ordered to obey the Muslim leader, in a Muslim country, because he is the symbol of the oneness and the union of the Muslims. Even if this leader is not a just leader, even if this leader does a lot of evil things, we should not revolt against him, because revolting against him will cause a bigger fitna and a bigger havoc, and Muslims will fight among each other and will hate each other, and they will become too weak to defend themselves from their external enemies, who will take advantage of their situation and invade them, just like what's happening today in many Muslim countries. Muslims, they go out and they say we need, basically they have these marches against the ruler, and they say we want democracy, and they don't even know what democracy is. So basically these Muslims, many of them are dying in the Muslim countries for something that is haram, which is to go against your Muslim ruler. Now, this doesn't mean that what the Muslim rulers are doing is correct, but at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to hold them to account for their evil deeds. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold the people that revolt against them to those deeds. So basically the rulers are wrong, and the people that revolt against them are also wrong. And this basically, as the Prophet ﷺ said, when you have a Muslim ruler, you should not revolt against him, even if he strikes your back. That means he beats you and takes your money. Even if he does this, you're not allowed to revolt against him. But of course, you invoke Allah against him, you make dua, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you your right. As the Prophet ﷺ said, أَدُّوا لَهُمْ حَقَّهُمْ وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّكُمْ. Give them their right, which is the bay'ah, which is to not revolt against them, and ask Allah for your right. Because this is the only way you're going to achieve anything. If you try to revolt against them, not only will you be killed and your family will lose you, and maybe your children will become orphans or will go to the street, you're going to lose a lot of things in this world and in the hereafter. This is why we always have to listen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when these matters happen, we always have to go to the real scholars, not the scholars that are paid by Westerners to increase and instill fitna within the Muslims. We have to ask the real scholars for action and direction. So bottom line here is that the Muslims have to be unified, and they should not seek the reasons to be separated. This is an important word, seek, because as human beings we are all different. Even if we may be on the same religion, from the same tribe, you're never going to find two people that are alike. So if you seek something that makes you different from someone else, you will find it, because by definition we are different. But no, we should do the opposite of this. We should seek the means to be united, to be one ummah, to be brothers, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with us, because Allah says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And then He says, and remember Allah's bounty on you, نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ, when you were enemies, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made your hearts close to one another, and then you became brothers, and you almost you almost fell into hellfire, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has saved you from it. Here, the verse was revealed on the tribes of Aus and Khazraj, who were at war before Muhammad ﷺ. They used to kill each other, and they used to take money from each other. Also, there were two tribes from the children of Israel there, from the Jews, Banu Nadir and Banu Qurayza, and basically each one of these Jewish tribes would take sides either with Aus or with Khazraj, and the Jews would fight among themselves, and they would take each other's money. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chastised them in Surah alBaqarah when He said, ها أنتم أولئك تقتلون أنفسكم. Okay, the ayah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Jews that you were believers, you had the book between your hands, which is the Torah, and still you fought among each other because the polytheists, who were the Aus and Khazraj at the time, were fighting among themselves. So here, when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came, and Aus and Khazraj heard about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they knew that he was the prophet that the Jews were talking about. Because what happened here, this is an important point that we need to remember. You know, when the Jews were living in Medina before Muhammad ﷺ was sent as a messenger, they used to tell the Aus and Khazraj, they used to tell them, Allah will send us a prophet. He's going to come out here. This is the reason why they lived in Medina. The Jews actually, the tribes immigrated to Medina waiting for a prophet to come from there. But they thought that the prophet is going to come from among the children of Israel. So they used to tell the Aus and Khazraj, the Arabs at the time, they used to tell them, Allah will send a prophet from among us, and then we will kill you the same way Ad was killed. So the Jews used to tell this to the Aus and Khazraj. So of course, Aus and Khazraj later on, when they went to Mecca for Hajj and they met Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they said, "O Aus and Khazraj, this is the prophet that the Jews were threatening you with. Don't let them reach him before you. Don't let them become his helpers before you." So the Aus and Khazraj Ansar gave help to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and true enough, they became the Muslims, and instead of the Jews killing the Aus and Khazraj, the opposite happened. So this is something that I thought I'd bring about here. So this is also a reason why the Jews were in Medina to begin with, because they were not from there originally, but they knew Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to send the Prophet from Medina, except that they thought it was going to be among them. So when Allah chose, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to choose, and the choice is His, He is the creator of all of the world. When Allah chose that Muhammad ﷺ would be from among Quraysh, from the Arabs, not from the children of Israel, they disbelieved in him and they said, yeah, you are a prophet, but you are not our prophet. So they believed that Muhammad ﷺ is a prophet, but not that he was sent to them. The next verse is very important. وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Muslims, let there be among you a portion of the Muslim ummah who are calling to Islam and ordering what is good and forbidding what is bad. And it is said that these people are the two types of people that are calling to Islam through number one, jihad, and through number two, scholars. So the people that are waging jihad and the scholars are this portion of the ummah who are calling to Islam and ordering what's good and forbidding what's bad. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that only the scholars need to order what's good and forbid what's bad, because the Prophet ﷺ said, whomever among you sees an evil, let him change it with his hands. If he cannot, then let him change it with his tongue. If he cannot, let him change it with his heart. And there is not a small grain of faith after that. In other words, if you see evil and in your heart you don't feel that it's evil, then you don't have any faith in your heart. Now, let him change it with his hand. This applies to a person where he has authority. For example, you have a store, then you are the owner. So you can change things by hand. You can order, you can increase, you can decrease. In your house, you are the wali al-amr, you are the one in charge. So of course, if you see an evil in your house, you need to change it with your hand. But in the street, obviously, you don't have the authority. Not in the Muslim land, not in disbelieving land. So of course, you're not going to change it by hand because it's not up to you to do this. But what you can do is do it by tongue. So if you see a person, a Muslim, doing an evil thing, or in general, any person who's doing something that's evil, then you may try to talk them into stopping this evil. Of course, if talking to them is not cause you harm, but if it's gonna cause you harm, then it's the best thing is just to change it with your heart to dislike the evil that you are seeing in front of you. So this is what we need to clarify, because some people, they think that you're just gonna go out in the society and they see something bad, they're gonna start striking people, or this guy, he stole, so I'm gonna cut his hand, or this guy did this, I'm gonna kill him. This is not up to the individual Muslim. This is only up to the government, the Muslim government. And when you live in non-Muslim country, obviously they have their own laws and we don't interfere with them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering that there be among the Muslims a portion that calls to do what's good, what's bad, and each one and everyone has an ability to do something, and everyone has to call to Allah according to his own ability. So maybe a person, a father can teach his children Quran, and also especially Surah al-Fatiha. We should be the ones that teach Surah al-Fatiha to our children, so that we can get the reward, because they're gonna use it their whole lives, inshallah, to pray. So every time they use it, we get the reward. So this is only what's good, forbidding what's evil. Talk to our daughters or our cousin. For example, maybe our family is a family that was blessed with adherence to Allah's religion, but maybe our other family members, the external families, maybe the cousins or the uncles, maybe their families are not on Allah's path. So when we meet with them, we should try to explain to them that what they're doing is they are wrong, in a nice manner, because people don't like you to come to them, with force, especially if you're an outsider, right? So you try to explain to them that, your daughter should wear hijab, your son should pray, he's already 11, things like that. So each and every one of us is able to spread Islam according to their means. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the people that do this are the ones who are truly successful, of course, in this dunya and in the hereafter. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't be وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ تَفَرَّقُوا وَاخْتَلَفُوا بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمْ بَيِّنَاتٍ. And don't be like the ones that differed and were separated after Allah has given them proof. So this obviously is a reference to the Jews and Christians before us, as the authentic hadith said that the Jews were separated into 71 sects. So all of those sects were on the wrong path, except one of the sects at the time of Musa alayhi salam. Because as you know, the Jews, they divided into sects as well. Some of them said that Ezra was the son of Allah. Some of them said that Sulaiman used magic, and therefore magic is halal. They divided it into different sects, and the Christians divided into 72 sects, and the Muslims, as the Prophet ﷺ said, will be divided into 73 sects, all of whom are in the hellfire except the one sect. This sect is al-Jama'ah in one hadith. Jama'ah means, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Jama'ah are the companions, and after him are the tabi'een, tabi'een, and the scholars that are on the minhaj of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba. And the proof to this is another hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. That means the path that I am taking and my companions. So the path of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions. And this is why they say the path of the Salaf as-Salih. Salaf are the pious predecessors, are our ancestors who are pious, because not everyone in the ancestors was pious, obviously. So the Prophet's path ﷺ and the companions is the only path that will take to Jannah, is the only correct path among the 73 paths. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among them, because the Prophet ﷺ also said in a hadith, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق حتى يأتيهم الموت وهم كذلك. أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. There's always going to be a portion among my nation, among the Muslims, who are always on the truth. And لا يضرهم من خذلهم. Anyone that goes against them, oppose them, will not harm them. And they're going to remain like that until they die. So in every time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a special thing for this ummah. In every time and age, there's always a portion of the Muslims who are on the truth. So never will you find among the Muslims that all the Muslims are misguided. There's always going to be a portion of the Muslims that are on the truth. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be among them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to not be separated and to not differ in our religion like the ones before us. And they shall have severe punishment, because many of them, they argued and differed with each other, not because they did not know. Many of them knew the truth, but out of hatred to each other, out of envy, out of arrogance, they did not want to admit that they were wrong. So they followed the wrong path and took many people with them in this wrong path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to send them to the hellfire on the day of judgment. Yawma, that's the day of judgment. On the day when some faces will be white, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be among them, and some faces are going to be black. So the ones whose faces are going to be black are the disbelievers, are the hypocrites. Akafartum ba'da imanikum, those are the hypocrites. So Allah is going to tell them to taste the punishment because they disbelieved. And as for the ones whose faces will be white, we ask Allah to be among them. So white meaning light emanating from the face. So there's like you see a nur, you see a light in the face. Then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be among them. Those will be in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dwelling therein forever. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us what benefits us and to keep us on the straight path. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the saved sect, al-firqa al-najiyah, and among the victorious sect, al-firqa al-mansura. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us away from all the fitna and to bless us, our families, and our rizq, and teach us beneficial knowledge and gather us with Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu salam fi jannat al-firdaus al-ulya wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Jazakumullahu khairan, brothers.